Hi angels, how are you doing? Hanging in there, and today I am bringing you my grieving journey. Yes, in the last video I didn't explain how I actually grieved. It was just a very vague, is that the correct score? Vague video. So, my grieving journey. Remember the previous video, for those that watched it? In the previous video, I explained that I didn't really get time to grieve instantly after my mother's funeral. I only grieved after, like, many years after. But there are stages that I went through that I did not realize that they were grieving stages. For instance, I went through denial, like a total mental shutdown and denial of her being gone. Sorry guys, oof, I had coke today, sorry. And then I went through anger, I went through hatred, I went through constant crying, I went through severe depression, I was suicidal, I hated myself, I hated the people around me back then. And when I first started dealing with my mother's loss, it was when I went for counseling. Is it counseling or counseling? So, guys. And it was a church. I had very loving church members back then. Some who were there for me, who became a support structure for me, and we would talk about losing my mother and about the life that I lived back then, because it was honestly not a good life. It was very painful. And after that, when I was in tertiary, then I went for therapy. I saw a psychologist, and to be honest, at that point I wouldn't really say I was grieving. I would say I was seeing a psychologist who helped me with mechanisms to cope. So I was coping through, how can I put it? You know, when that sad feeling comes and then you think of something positive and then you let go. And at that stage, I would say I was playing mind games with myself. I, most of the time, decided to replace the feeling with a thought. So whenever I would miss my mom and go into that dark space, I would just switch on a happy thought and tell myself, I've accepted this, I'm strong, I've got this, yeah, I'm a superwoman, I've been through a lot, yeah, I've survived a lot. So I would play mind games with myself and convince myself that I was okay and that I grieved. And it was only after having my own child, after having my daughter, and now having to become a mother, when I literally spent a hell a lot of my life or years motherless and not really knowing what motherly love is from my own mother, but knowing it from some people who were there for a certain period of time in my life. So after having my own daughter, that's when I had to face my demons. That's when I had to face the wound of losing my mother. And I would say it took me a lot, because I was depressed during my pregnancy. I was depressed post my pregnancy, and I had to come to terms with myself, sit myself down and say, now, girl, you're a mother, and you need to mother this child and give this child love, and how you need to know how to go about it. You need to be the person that you needed in your life after losing your own mother, and you need to learn to not make the mistakes that your mother made when she was still alive. So I would honestly say I grieved through self-love, because through self-love, I focused on who my mother was when she was still alive and who I became after losing her. It was only when I literally sat down with myself and looked at the wound and the impact of the wound that I would say I grieved, because then I cried for losing her. I didn't cry because of the things that happened after losing her. Before, I would cry and I would cry blaming God, hating God, and I would be like, God, if my mother was still alive, if you didn't take my mother, I wouldn't be crying this much, because then people wouldn't be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Only after sitting down with myself after having my baby did I cry and say to myself, she's gone, baby girl, she's gone. And you had to be her in your own life. Now you have to continue to be her in your own life and be your own person who's going to be a mother to your child. Because the thing with losing a mother and grieving is we oftentimes attach ourselves to the wound and we define ourselves in terms of the wound. Like, oh, I'm Goldie who doesn't have a mother. And I'm Goldie who doesn't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because I lost my mother at an early age. So only after sitting down with myself and saying, okay, when we remove all of these other aspects of my life, who am I as an individual? And I found that I was still attached to the loss of my mother. And that's when I decided, okay, I need to heal this wound and let go of it. And to be quite honest with you, it was not easy. I cried. Yo, guys, I cried a lot. And this was 16 years later, 16 years after her death. So I've literally been crying for the past 16 years. That's how long it took for me to can say, I've healed or I'm better. Because I don't think you completely heal, but yeah, I'm way better than I was. 16 full years, 16. Because my mom passed in 2002. It took me 16 years. This is the 17th year of her passing. It took me 16 years crying. So guys, grieving takes time, and we grieve in different ways. To be honest, I cried, I was angry, I was bitter, I was suicidal. I went through a hell of a lot of emotional roller coaster. I had self-esteem issues. It was bad. But one thing I can tell you is, cry it all out. Cry it all out and come back to yourself and love yourself. Because I think I would say I healed or tried to heal my wound through self-love and through detachment from her loss or losing her. So cry it out, guys. Cry it out. Just go through it. Go through the emotions. And never, I repeat, never ever allow anyone to come to you and say to you, but you've been crying for 10 years or you've been crying for 16 years. Dismiss such people. Remove such people from your life. Only you know. Only you know the pain. Only you go through whatever that comes with the pain. Like, sometimes when you lose someone, there's this, I don't know, dark cloud, if I may call it that comes with losing a mother specifically. People start showing their true colors. People start being mean. People start now treating you like a slave. A hell of a lot of things happen after you lose your mother. So never allow anyone who does not understand your pain to come and say, but you've been crying for this long, or but you've been whatever. Heal, deal with your pain, and come back to yourself. And center yourself and love yourself and give yourself the love that you give to others. Give yourself the support that you give to others. Give yourself all the positive energy that you would need. Like, I would say, through it all, I needed someone who would just hug me and say, you know what, it's going to be okay. And I did have those people, but nothing was more fulfilling than me hugging myself and saying, you know what, Goldie, hey, when I'm a girl, all of this will pass. The day I became the person that I needed was the day that I literally felt relieved. So guys, grieve. Whichever way you need to grieve, grieve. Some people will not understand. There was a time when I drank, guys. There was a time when I was like literal alcohol tank. And this was years later after losing my mother. I was an alcohol tanky. So, but I never drank and gave other people problems. That's another thing that I want to warn people about. Do not go out misbehaving and blaming it on grieving. Please, guys, let's not do that. In everything, remember that if you mess up, you need to clean up. So never put yourself in a situation whereby you mess up and then you still have to go back and clean up after yourself and save your reputation and,